Hey, YouTube family! Welcome back, or welcome to Recruiting Board. I'm Alex Agrella. Everyone take this time, like, share, and subscribe to the best family here on YouTube. Especially if you're from New England and you love football content, there's no channel like me on all of YouTube first off, but definitely around New England. So show some support for your homie as I take over YouTube and bring football content to an entirely new level. Hey, drop a thumbs up, especially for that intro right there. It is bowl season. We going bowling. Saturday will be a great day in the Nepsac across all of New England. I'm going to be talking about giving my thoughts on the games, making some predictions, and to be honest with you, I definitely did not see all these teams play this year. Not only that, but I am not a coach, so I can't really dissect these teams. However, I do know some coaches that not only have played these teams, they've watched films on these other teams. So I'm going to bring them in and we're going to talk about the matchups. Coach Tommy Beaton from Williston, Adam Banks from Loomis, Ben Ruley from Proctor Academy. By the way, all schools who have post-grad programs, so if you are looking for a PG, you can hit them up. But a jam-packed day for you here on Recruiting Board, like always. This is a special edition. We're only going to do bowls. Let's jump into the interviews because before I do my predictions, the guests are going to speak here first on Recruiting Board. We're going to let them voice their opinions. And then afterwards, I'm going to get into my predictions. By the way, guys, because I take content to a different level and I am a creator, basically what we're going to do is we're going to take all three of those interviews and combine them into one giant segment. Coach Ruley actually gave his predictions on who will win each game, so I'll put his predictions in each segment. Let's get it to 500 likes. I put in so much time and effort into this video. There has never been bowl game coverage like this before, so please show your support. Let's hit it. We are joined by the head coach of Loomis, Proctor Academy, Coach Banks, Ben Ruley, Coach Beaton. Thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate you having me.
Hey, happy to help out.
Thanks for having me on and really excited to talk some Nepsac bowl season here.
I figured not a lot of people know a lot of these teams that are on there, but you know a lot of these teams. How many teams have you played on this list?
We played Avon and Choate, obviously, in our league, crossed over with Deerfield out of league. I'm familiar with the guys down at Cheshire. A really good friend of mine, Anthony Fusil, is the head guy at Belmont Hill. At Tabor, former head coach at Loomis, Jeff Moore's there. So got a pretty intimate knowledge, I guess, as good as anyone can of some of these teams and what they do well. And should be some really great matchups this weekend. So if you're a fan of football, 4 great games to see in Class A for sure.
When you first saw the schedule, what were some games that stood out to you, knowing what you know?
Anytime Choate's in there, I mean, they've found a way, every year to be, near kind of that top bowl and having crossed over, at least seen Exeter on film, that should be a really great matchup. I think those teams are built, pretty similarly. It should be a physical game. Pano and LJ will have those guys ready to go.
I think it's a really deep group this year. In terms of the bowls, I think there should be really some great games, great matchups. So it'll be fun. I always like seeing kind of league by league how things shake out. Certainly excited about Exeter Choate to see how that one goes. I think obviously Choate's been, the number one program in New England for a long time. And I think Exeter's playing as good as anybody right now. They're a complete team with some great players and really not any holes at all. So Coach Valguera's done a great job with that group.
Hamden Hall Dexter, first of all, is the one I would circle if I was going to go watch a game.
Looking at the Cheshire and Avon game, I mean, that's certainly a hot ticket right there with Reno and Puglisi kind of matching up again. That's always a great battle between those two guys. Those guys will be ready to go at a really big stage, for a bowl game. And then, like I said, Belmont Hill and Deerfield could be a great game.
A larger Class A versus an ISL to see how that balances out. I think that's going to be a great game too.
Again, two teams that I think are matched pretty evenly. They'll both present, some issues for one another, schematically and from a personnel perspective. The BBNN and Tabor matchup is very interesting. With BBNN, really finishing strong with a great win against Lawrence. So that should be another great game to watch.
Pingree Rivers. Now, I'm really excited for this one because I think that, Pingree, in terms of recruiting, you're going to have crossover with different schools. And, I want to go to an ISL school. It's kind of like ACC, SEC, right? If you're able to beat an ISL school, if you're Pingree, I think that is monstrous for them. But Coach, you played Pingree a couple weeks ago. Talk about what you saw from Pingree.
Let me say this first with the Pingree Rivers game. I don't know much about Rivers. I haven't seen them on film. We don't cross over. But this game's at Pingree, correct, Alex?
Yes.
That is one of the most difficult places to play in the Evergreen League. I'm going to tell you that right now. That is home field advantage. Obviously, both being day schools, that place is going to be rocking. I just don't see number 14, Hudson Weidman. I don't see this young man in his last ever football game at Pingree at home in front of his home crowd not fight until the last second on that clock. That kid's a throwback player. He plays so hard. He's an unbelievable quarterback. I don't care what schematics you throw, what game plan it is. I put it all on this kid to say he's going to will his team to win. When he's got his buddy, number one, Chris Colby out there, that's a hard duo to combat, especially on their own home turf in front of that big old crowd that they're going to have down there at Pingree. Coach Flynn's offensive line, when you played in the NFL, you know some things maybe some of us don't know. And that offensive line is very technically sound. They work hard together. They do a lot of QB read stuff. They hurt us on that, where they're just zoning the front and then picking somebody in the second level to read, and he just picks you apart there in the run game. They'll turn the tempo up when they need to, and they'll go really slow and methodical when they need to. Against us, they've bled the play clock down to almost the last second and snapped the football, which will throw you off your game, believe it or not. So, I think they really want to establish the run, and when you got number one out there on the perimeter, you got to account for him. I have a feeling Pingree's going to be prepared offensively for Rivers.
Personally, didn't think Pingree was going to be very good because they lost so much. Here they are in a bowl game. Take this time to publicly say again, I apologize to them. Hudson is such a gamer, and he's won so many games for them. But you're right, I can't see him going out with an L to end his Pingree career at the farm.
I bet you he knows that offense just as well as those coaches do. We were lucky to have that last year when our quarterback, who was with us for quite some time, it makes your life so much easier as a coach. And
the keys to success, if you're Rivers, though, what do you have to do to shut them down? You can't really shut Hudson down.
You got to corral him somehow. Like, he's going to hit one on you. How are you able to keep enough guys in the box to stop the run game while also taking care of number one out in the perimeter is going to be the key to this whole thing for them. The other thing, too, we didn't mention, we've been talking a lot of offense here defensively. Pingree does a really good job. They're very aggressive. They'll run some exotic stuff in the secondary at you, a little bit of a rover, kind of hides out almost. You watch them on their film and their scrimmages. You see him, and all of a sudden he pops up out of nowhere and just robbing coverages and picking people off. So they do some pretty cool stuff defensively in that 3-3, and they're not afraid to bring pressure at you. If I'm Rivers and attacking them, again, not knowing much about Rivers, and not much at all, actually, if they have a big OT and a tight end, that normally will force them to bring a guy down from the secondary, and you can actually get some things going against Pingree. But
what makes Deerfield so good?
Yeah, I don't know if there's an offensive skill group that's better in New England. We played against them and they were banged up. They still put up a lot of points against us. Cole's a great quarterback. He's obviously had great college opportunities. They have kind of a two-pronged running back group with number 26 and number 3. And when 26 is at running back, 3 is at slot receiver. You have Tristan Ward, who's going to Virginia. You have the tight end who has multiple FBS offers as well. There's just so many big players there. They can score in a lot of different ways.
They were really good on defense coming into our game. They played Cheshire the week before us. At that point, Cheshire had scored a season high against them. They were somewhere in the 20s, I think. They were holding teams to 7, 10 points prior to playing Cheshire. And just got guys that fly around to the football. They're pretty stout on their defensive front with their D-line and linebackers. And their DBs do a really good job of playing assignment football, not kind of beating themselves.
Keys to success. What will they have to do to contain them if they can?
First thing you want to do with a team like them is tame their run game. Those guys are going to commit to it. They've got kind of a two-headed monster in the backfield. The quarterback can run a little bit too, so they'll be able to utilize that, be able to match up and hold up against some of the weapons that they have on the outside. So they're a really complete team, and if they're hitting on all cylinders offensively, they can be pretty tough to beat. So you kind of got to neutralize the run game, try to control the clock, keep the offense off the field, as much as you can, limit their possessions.
So let's talk about Belmont Hill.
I'm a very good friend, and Anthony Fusillo is a very good friend of mine. We worked together at Amherst College. So, we had the weekend off that week. So I want to get a chance to go out there and support him. He's been having a great year. Really, the thing that you saw most from them is just the energy and the feel that those guys had. Those kids are excited to play. They were flying around on defense. They smothered, Milton Academy on offense, and to fight that defensive pressure, their defensive line is very good. And they were able to establish the run game as well. Looking at the stats of that game, they rushed for about 250 yards or so and didn't really need to throw the ball that much because they were able to do so many things on the run game, and just their defense was so dominant in that game. And same thing, they were able to limit the possessions of Milton and really put the pressure pressure on those guys that by the time you look up, you're down 2-3 scores, and now you're kind of fighting the clock a little bit as well. So I know Coach Fusillo will have something ready for the doors on Saturday, and so will Coach Barbado.
Coach Banks, in your time, how big of a factor would weather be in that? Because I don't know what it is yet. I don't know if you checked the weather for Saturday either, but it's cold around here in New England if people don't know.
At this time of the year, doesn't matter what game it is, whether it's the pro game, the college game, especially in this region, you want to be able to run the football. And both those teams can really well. I think there's some rain in the forecast early this week. I think that's why, especially in the bowl games, they're looking to play games on turf and things like that to kind of neutralize the weather a little bit. Like a grass field on a rainy day late in the season can be a huge advantage to a home team that typically plays on grass. That should be pretty neutralized with the playing surface. I don't know what the wind is. I always look at the wind. It can be such an asset to you depending on which way it's blowing. It's really hard to defend the passing game sometimes in the wind, especially if a guy's throwing into the wind, because it's hard to judge the ball as a DB. I can kind of speak to that from personal experience. I don't know how much of a factor it's going to play into, especially if both of those teams are committed to being able to run the football.
Another moment for you to shout out your friend Anthony. Just talk about what he's been able to do in year one. Anthony and Jeff, you can do it in a year, and they're proving it, right, Coach?
They do it two different ways, too. Anthony came in and kind of, evaluated the roster that they had there and felt that they were pretty close to being able to be pretty good. The way that he is, he has an infectious personality. They love playing for him. Just from the outside looking in, he's really been able to just take the guys that are there, have them play to their strong suits, get a little bit more out of everybody that's in there. Couldn't be happier to just, go in and get after it with a guy who's pouring everything he can into it. Jeff is down at Tabor has proven time in and time out, he can turn a program around pretty quickly. His ability to attract high-level kids to a program is really second to none. I don't have an intimate knowledge of the rest of the country, but I'd put him up against anybody else who's out with his ability to just attract high-level kids to a program and be able to kind of turn it around here. He did it at STM. He did it here at Loomis, and you're seeing it, again this year at Tabor. I had the opportunity when I got up to Amherst College. He was still at UMass, so he was helping out a little bit, with the Amherst program. He has been the same from his senior year of college to now. I mean, the guy just works his tail off. There will be no stone unturned to find a kid. If you have a school administration that really wants to be good and wants to kind of pour into the program, he can do it really quickly.
And the Deerfield-Belmont Hill game, that's going to be a fun one. I think that's going to be closer than a lot of people think. I think you quickly circle Deerfield on that one, but I think I think Bell Hill's going to put up a fight. I still think Deerfield takes that one 20-17 in a low-scoring game.
So talk about what it was like playing St. Paul's.
It's pretty remarkable that, those three games we had against these bowl teams in the Evergreen League, we lost by a total of 9 points. So, we played these teams tight, big physical team who has depth. Depth in small school, prep school football goes a long way. And I know Coach is going to have those guys ready to play against Lawrence. Offensively, tight end wing-based team. So if you don't have anything that can combat that, that's going to be a problem out on the edge. What they do a great job at St. Paul's, a lot of movement-based offensively and have big targets. What I also respect about what they do is they always have a big wide receiver to go to. And they got a kid that's a junior, I think number 85, 6'8", 200-pound, really good ball player. And they love running a little post corner with him. So they're not afraid to go like two tight end, I formation, play action pass you, and then go after you for a jump ball against a smaller defensive back. So, and with them offensively, you got to stop their run game, period. You got to stop power. And they're a really good ISO team. And the sneaky play that they've been running for a long, long time that they're very good at is just a toss sweep. As simple as it sounds, they do a fantastic job off of that. Again, Coach Vandersea does a fantastic job keeping you unbalanced too. They're not afraid to flip the front, even on the offensive side of the ball for you. So,
but I do have a question, Coach. So the recipe's been the same. They're that power run team. They know it's coming. But what makes it special with them?
It's a simple set. You can tell they just execute it unbelievably well in practice. And what Coach does really well is he'll put some window dressing on it at times and do a little different types of motion and still get to the same set he wants his kids in without any movement. And then before you know it, you're confusing the defense. You're dealing with high school linebackers and so forth. The second they see movements like a squirrel, getting chased, they're gonna fire their head over there and be like, "What's going on? Why is this big guy moving over here?" And before you know, he's cowering against it. Coach does a fantastic job. That staff does of finding new ways to kind of keep the same base play, but find new ways of running that base play. We also got a little nod to the offensive line. They got a big O line, and when you can do simple things really well and run the ball, you're going to win football games, and that's what St. Paul's does. That's what I expect offensively from them. So we saw multiple fronts against them, both both an even and odd front. They are really, really good linebacker core, especially on the outside too. They're not afraid to come after you. Number 3 and number 4, both fantastic football players. They'll move them around, but definitely use them off of the edge. Multiple coverage also on the back end. Where they're vulnerable is in the middle of the field. But what they started to do, don't tell Coach Vandersea this, I'm just kidding, but sometimes you can put them in some formations and dictate the coverage. You can attack the middle of the field in certain coverage, certain formations, and some other formations. And I won't tell Lawrence what those ones that we found. You can move them around and get one high and take advantage of some stuff in the slot. But what you can still do all of that. But they have fantastic kids back there that can make it up. And again, like their offense, they do a few things really, really well. And yes, you can schematically move them, but their kids make plays because they understand how to play within what they've been taught. We thought we had them a couple of times, and boom, out of nowhere, some kid comes, makes a phenomenal play and intercepts one of our passes. And it's like that changed the whole dynamic of our game. The other thing I come back to, if Lawrence does not have depth, that's going to be a factor in this game. St. Paul's can wholesale sub. And that's a huge advantage when you're playing. A lot of teams have to play Ironman football. They rotated 3 different nose tackles against us. I remember being on the headsets with our coaches going, do we even have 3 guys that we can play at nose? When you can rotate 3 guys around just in one position and still not lose anything, you're going to be okay.
I said this to Vandersea, so it's nothing he doesn't know. I said, dude, I think people forget that they beat BBNN last year, and you have to play them every year.
We love playing against those guys every year because they're a class act. You know what you're going to get. It's definitely a game that we circle and they circle as, it's going to be a battle, a program that's been cooking now for, I'd say, 5, 7, maybe going on a decade now.
If you're the Lawrence Academy head coach, knowing what you know, right? What's the key to beating a St. Paul's?
The key to it is you got to stop their 3 number 1 run plays. If you can do that, you're going to cause some problems for them. Defensively, you got to be ready for multiple fronts and pressure. If you can go toe-to-toe with them up front, and you also have some tight end wing combinations that can go against their odd front, that will cause some problems for them. If you can hit a big one on them every now and then, statistically, when a big play happens, they start slowing down their blitzes.
So BBNN plays Tabor. You're familiar with them as well. Talk about playing BBNN and, again, those keys to success.
I'd say numbers 1 through 10 of beating BBNN is stopping Bo. We did everything in our game plan to stop him, and we still weren't able to stop him. Coach Willie does a great job in the run game. I mean, the way he coaches up those O-line, that's probably the best coach O-line I've seen. They were able to put up a lot of points against us. Stopping him is tough. He has a gain of 4, a gain of 5, and you almost think that's a great play on defense. That's the hardest part is, he can do it all. He can make you miss. He can run you over. He can run right by you, but he's a smart, patient back too. It's going to be tough to stop him. I don't care how good your defense is.
I think that's a great matchup. If you look at the way that Tabor has been able to kind of roll through their Class B schedule, I don't know how competitive or how great it would have been, for them to play against a traditional Class B team. They're certainly built more like a Class A team, and there's no better team other than BBNN to match them up against a team that, like you said, has been here. Coach Willie does a phenomenal job with those guys out there, just kind of pumping out a strong program year in and year out. The same way that you can look at a program like Choate that's just kind of continually at the top of the conference and at the top of Nepsac. BBNN's been able to do it all the way back to the Pappas days. So, Coach Willie's been able to continue that. They're a team that's going to be physical. They're going to play the game the right way. It'll be great for Coach Moore and Tabor to be able to put what they can do on display. The time for Coach Moore to be able to kind of take anybody by surprise is kind of long gone. So people are going to be ready for him wherever he is. People are going to expect a great team from him. So
BBNN Tabor, holy crap! How about Tabor and what Coach Moore's done there? Nod to him. Great guy, always been good to me in our program, whether he was coaching at UMass or wherever he's been on the stops along the way. BBNN, battle-tested team. BBNN with a win there, 33-21. Little big prediction there, I think, on that one.
We need to place an over-under on how many yards Hugo and Bo are going to rush for together. You guys didn't play them this year, but you have in years past. Canterbury, what can you tell me about them, Coach? Because I and my viewers probably know nothing about them. So anything you can tell me, I have no problem voicing my opinion on that one. I want Worcester Academy to win that one. I don't know if you saw my tweet, Coach. Their first bowl game since 2004, and that would be their first victory ever. I'm personally rooting for that. I don't know how you can root against that unless you're Canterbury. I'll let that one slide.
Congratulations to those guys at Worcester. I know that's a place that's been building for these past few years, and they've got a great football team, and that staff did a great job this season. So, playing in a bowl game, and representing the league against another Evergreen League team is fantastic. Back to Canterbury for you. So it's been a couple of years since we played Canterbury. I think the Canterbury-Worcester matchup is going to be a phenomenal football game. Both of those teams we crossed over quite a bit when we were scouting other opponents, so we got to see them on film, both Worcester and Canterbury. Both teams are very good running teams. The running back from Worcester Academy, a lot of times on film, popped when we were watching, like, ooh, this guy's fun to watch.
Jojo Uga.
He's a really, really good running back. He runs hard, very much a similar style, a power spread offense. And they're not afraid to just grip it and rip it a few times and see what happens. So I know you mentioned Canterbury. Your viewers probably don't see much of them. They're based out of New Milford, Connecticut. Very old school football team. You're talking about pro-eye. They would actually remind your viewers of Dexter probably on that style of play where they're going to go from 3-by-1 formations, 2-by-2 formations, and they're going to say, you know what, when things we need to slow things down a little bit, we're just going to run it right at you. They got some great running backs that I saw on film this year. They're always big up front. Coach Stone does a fantastic job finding guys that can move other humans up front really well. A lot of 2-back stuff, a lot of 21 personnel. One of their favorite formations, twins to the right or left with split backs in the backfield shotgun, and they're going to run power and ISO right at you out of that. Worcester's going to need to be ready for that. In the same breath, I think Canterbury needs to be ready for the complete same thing on the other side because Worcester does a lot as well. That one's going to come down. What I saw on film that Canterbury does really well is they've got some sneaky route combinations that, they can trip up some secondaries. They like to run a lot of switch concepts, 4 vertical switch concepts, and they'll get some of their inside receivers free. They have a slot receiver who's very, very, very good, and they'll put him in the backfield as well. And big up front, I agree with you. This is going to be a fantastic game. It's going to be close. Playing at home too at Worcester is going to help. Canterbury's got to go on the road a little bit here. I'm taking Worcester 34-32 in an old-fashioned slobber knocker.
We're both on the Worcester train, Coach.
Absolutely.
I think everybody wants to see Puglisi Reno one more time.
That one will be, a sight to see for sure. I mean, there are weapons all over the place on both sides.
Talk to me about Cheshire specifically.
They've got a lot of, again, very similar, a lot of big play potential. I mean, with Dante at quarterback and Luke at tight end, there's a couple of really good wideouts. They're a tough team to stop. They're going to put up a lot of points. They have all year. I mean, it's just a really explosive group. Luke Reynolds, the number 1 tight end in the country. I don't think I've seen a pass catching tight end like Luke. Route running ability. You stand next to him and you don't realize really how big he is. And as big as he is, I mean, he runs routes like a receiver. I'm sure he's going to have a great career at Penn State.
We played Deerfield the week after they played Cheshire. And so we're watching the live stream of that game. And Cheshire's got, the quarterback, and they also have 4 kids on offense that can go 90 at any time. Between Luke Reynolds and Mallory, between Newbie, running back is great as well. So, they certainly have the offensive weapons. And the same could be said for the guys at Avon. Ryan, he's looked as good as ever has this season. Cronin has had a season for the ages. They got, 2-headed monster between Buck Craig and Owen Moreland in the backfield. And then on defense, they've got athletes all over the place as well. Kiki Adams and the guys that they have playing both ways as well. I mean, I know that the Klein kid plays both ways. So does Cronin. So does Moreland. With the Brown kid coming off of the edge, their defensive line is a very stout group as well. So expect to see it be a very physical game.
Hopefully they're both fully healthy, and if so, then that'll be a great game.
And now that you've played against Dante Reno twice, Coach, what makes Dante so special?
As good of a player as he is, I actually thought he made a huge jump from his junior to his senior year. He was on a great football team last year at Loomis, a very complete team. And this year, he obviously was on a great team again at Cheshire, but he really was the guy on that team this year. He doesn't make many mistakes at all. If something's not there, he's going to make a play with his feet. He's always keeping his eyes downfield. He's got an incredibly strong arm. People don't realize how big, strong, and fast he is. That's the other thing. Like, obviously, he's got a great arm, but he can hurt you with his legs too. So that makes it a little tricky. You got to give up something. And with all their firepower, if you're giving up, the quarterback run game, he'll hurt you.
He works early to develop a relationship with his receivers to be able to build that trust, right away. I mean, the kid works tirelessly at the game. Literally, one of the first things that I noticed about him is just he just does not stop working on his craft. So his film study, his individual skill development, like I said, how he works with the receivers on the team, you can see it come out in a game, just because if first read isn't there, he has the ability to create and find guys and be on the same page with his receivers. Just a really special talent.
What is the formula, though, to beating a team like Avon?
Where we were able to be a little bit different in 22 than we were this year was just the ability to kind of put some pressure on the quarterback. We didn't necessarily have that ability to make a pass rush and make him a little bit uncomfortable and have to, show his athleticism and extend plays as well. And I think Choate was able to do that to a certain extent, to just feel a little uncomfortable, in there. Still had the ability to make a ton of plays. Like I said, he can make plays with his feet. The kid is tough as nails. He can run, he can throw it, he can find guys down the field. If you want to have a shot against those guys, being able to put some pressure on the quarterback is something that you're going to need to be able to do. Mess up the timing of their passing game and things like that. You give yourself a chance.
Cheshire, Avon, that's going to be a heck of a football game. I wish that one was televised. I'm sure I can catch it on a live stream somewhere. I say it's a 1-touchdown win by Avon.
Oh, now this is the one I'm really interested to hear your opinion on. Keep in mind, Casey Day's watching. Hamden Hall, again, I'm going to shout them out because what a turnaround, coach. And you just played them. That game came down to the wire.
That's going to be an absolute fun game to watch. Hamden Hall, Coach Flinta down there, has about 27 guys in that roster, and I think 25 of them are just absolute varsity caliber, high-level kids.
Wow.
They're aggressive. They come after you on both sides of the ball. They got an unbelievable wide receiver core, 2 quarterbacks that they rotate that you don't notice, like to the point where you watch film and you're like, wait a minute, that was a different kid making that throw or making that run. They're very big up front. I mean, there's a reason why they're playing this week, right? There's a reason why they went 8-0 this year, and it's because of those kids. They're very, very good football players. Number 75, incredible offensive lineman, but I think he's even a better defensive player. They'll stand him up and bring him off the edge. They'll put his hand in the dirt. They'll run all different kind of schematics to get him loose. They're very physical and a mean team, and I mean that in a good way. They're going to come after you. Key to stopping them is they run a really good trap and a quarterback trap. Those are the number one plays right there, and a speed option. How do you find ways to shut that down? And before you know it, they're hitting a play action pass. Number one's 30 yards behind your secondary, and he's wide open. They score quickly and in bunches. Within a 3-minute stretch, they about 28 points on the board. Double moves. They a big hitch and go team. Would I also respect out of Coach Linta? He's a little bit of a riverboat gambler. They love reverse. They'll throw some trick plays in there. You've got to prepare for everything with these guys. And then before you know it, they're going to be in pro I, a lot like Dexter. I would say the offenses are similar in a way. Hamden Hall will score in bunches even in their I formation. So it's a very interesting style of play as far as how they can condense the box all the way to spreading you out and finding ways to score. And then on the defensive side, they showed earlier in the season more of a 3-3 stack, some very exotic blitzes. And then the past couple weeks were more of an even, more 4-2-5-ish look. Couldn't tell you why. There's just a little bit of an adjustment that they've made these past couple weeks. But either way, it doesn't matter. Those kids are still playing some really high-level physical football. One thing I would say that helped us last week was a little misdirection. Went a long way. We were able to move the ball a little bit there. Very physical, play hard. They play together. When you got guys like that just, will it to victory, that's a hard thing to combat. And, we didn't even mention their big tight end. He'd be like 6'4", 245, and he can move. Put him in the slot and just say, here you go. Go have some fun, and throw him the ball. And then they'll put him right there at tight end, and he just moves kids out of the way. So really good football team.
They're a day school as well. They've built almost what Dexter seems to have built, Coach. Because you're obviously friends with Coach Day. You've known him and you've seen Dexter over these past couple of years. So what makes Dexter so special to where they've had Power 5 guys signing, they've had Ivy guys?
So I remember when Dexter came into the Evergreen League years ago, and what Coach Day has done there is built it into a regional brand right there in that Boston area of a place that's a destination for kids that want to come play there. Linemen especially. I mean, that offensive line, I'm going to say we were fortunate we did not play them this year. We only had to see them on film. When those guys are clicking, I don't know of a better offensive line I've ever seen in the Evergreen League. I mean, they are very, very good, to say the least. Coach Day works very hard in the offseason to find local kids, whether it's attending camps, winter stuff, anything along those lines. He's always on the road trying to promote Dexter in the Dexter brand. And I also think that they do really well is leverage their current student athletes to go find more student athletes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that when when you've got some kids who are having a positive experience both on a football field and in their school community there at Dexter, or even Hamden Hall, or insert day school name there, you got to go down that path to find those kids, and they do a very good job of that.
What's your prediction on that one, Coach, if you want to share it?
That one's on the road at Hamden Hall, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Another tough place to play. We were there last year. We were able to come out 35-34 last year. I don't think people realize how good Hamden Hall was last year as well. I thought Hamden Hall was the best team we played last year. And I don't think Coach Day is going to be happy with me on this one. I think this one comes down to who has the ball last. Two things that are going to come into play on this one: depth and quarterback play.
Yeah.
What quarterback is going to come out and manage their team and make it happen? And again, Hamden Hall can use multiple ones, and again, we didn't play Dexter. I'm going to come down to those two things right there. When a Dexter puts it all together, I don't know of a better Evergreen League team this year I've seen on film. How's Hamden Hall? Can they score fast and quick and in bunches like they have all year? And how are you going to stop that? But I think it's a last possession type of game. This one could come down to special teams. I know Hamden Hall's had a little difficulty with that, but they're not afraid to go for two. So if this is coming down to a field goal, I'll be a little nervous for Hamden Hall. But my prediction on this one is it's either going to be Hamden Hall runs a trick play to win it or hits number one on like a double move to win it. I think Hamden Hall takes this one 26-24.
Well, you may get a call about that one. And then the last one, the big one, Coach. So we got Choate versus Exeter. I was very pumped to see this matchup, especially because it's in Exeter.
That's the Leon Modesti Bowl up at Exeter, right?
Yeah. Which,
a little irony there, huh?
Well, yeah. So Coach Facillo had to tell me on Twitter because I completely didn't understand the joke. So I went to Choate. I was at the Choate Avon game. Why is Choate so good? What have they built, Coach?
I don't know when LJ got to Choate, but they went on a streak that was unheard of when he was first there. He's really been able to build his program with the staying power of just being able to kind of reload. And we all have the ability to recruit new athletes and get the PGs and having kids reclass and things like that. He has it at a spot where the kids that come in, his culture is healthy, culture of competition on the team. So they are extremely deep. Guys that are behind are chomping at the bit to get on the field. So they're pushing kids in practice. New kids that he has coming in every year, make sure that they're difference makers and then really kind of buy into the culture of what they're trying to do there. The best way to describe these guys, I mean, these guys are a wagon, and they are year in and year out.
Choate's been the number one program in New England for a long time. And they're as deep a team as there is. They have a lot of college football players. Coach Spinato has done a great job recruiting to really put a great product on the field. I think the buy-in that team has had over the years, I mean, there's no doubt that, again, they've been the team in Nepsac football for, I don't even know the last time they didn't go to a bowl game. I mean, we might be talking 10 years, which is an absurd longevity for that program.
I tell people all the time, when people come through Loomis, I'm really proud of what we've been able to do here and excited about where we'll be in the future. But those guys are the standard, especially in the West. It doesn't matter if they have the top end draw in terms of the talent. They're going to have very good players. They're going to have D1 kids all over the place. D3 kids all over the place. The 22 starters, that are playing, probably 19 to 22 of them are going to play in college. They don't necessarily have to rebuild every year. They just have to reload. As we look at it, how we want to try to build it here. I mean, they're the standard, and that's who you got to compete with every year, and that's who you got to try to beat.
Talk about Exeter. Talk about what you saw from Phillips Exeter that made them so impressive.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they won our league this year. Hats off to those guys. I think the biggest thing with them is that they truly don't have a hole. There's no guy out there that you're like, all right, we're going to attack this guy. They're all great football players. I think they got better as the season went on, which says a lot about their coaching staff as well. Their running back, he's a kid going to Princeton who is absolutely phenomenal. He's good on film, and then when you see him in person, he's even better. Coach Valgaris does a great job with the offensive scheme. I mean, he's as creative as anybody and really does a great job keeping you on your toes. And then defensively, they put a lot of pressure on you. They're going to play a lot of one high, send 5, send 6. And just constantly just bring pressure and make you have to make decisions quickly.
Defensively, that D line specifically, can you talk about what you saw from them? Because I thought that was one of the most complete D lines, other than Belmont Hill, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first off, Mason Baldick is an explosive kid off the edge. He's someone that a lot of teams are going to struggle with. He's strong and he's fast. And then their other two guys, number 66 and number 70, are just big, physical, tough kids. They're tough to move up front, whether it's a gap scheme, whether it's a zone scheme. I mean, they just do a really, really good job of staying in their gap and being gap sound. And then, with number 2, one of their outside backers, and number 10 off the edge, they're just constantly bringing pressure. And then their 2 inside guys, 24 and 33, are just solid football players that don't make mistakes, and they all tackle well. That's the biggest thing. They run the ball and they all tackle well.
If you look at where those guys were in 21, have kind of done it a similar way. I mean, they've kind of flown under the radar per se with not being eligible for a bowl last year, and kind of this year, picked up just right where they left off. And Pano's been able to kind of do it in the same way. We talked about just kind of some of the PGs, kind of flying under the radar that are really making a difference for them, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We kind of cross over with them film wise, preparing for Suffield. And the first thing that I told our coaches was, they were knocking the crap out of each other in that first game. And I think that was the season opener. Looking at it on the field, I'm like, these are 2 extremely physical teams. These guys can run, they can hit, they got playmakers all over the place. The same thing in terms of the way, some of these other teams are built. He's going to have some playmakers all over the place. They're physical. They run to the football. And they're going to be able to find some type of weakness in what Choate does defensively, even though that's a tall task for all of us. They'll certainly be able to try to find some edge. That one will be a really interesting game. For me, I kind of wish it was in Connecticut to be able to get down there. But, we'll take a look at the live stream to be able to tune into that one.
Yeah, I mean, you can watch highlights on youtube.com/recruiting board. Just saying.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think Choate overcomes the bus ride and takes this one home 41-31.
Last thing is just, who are some of these seniors you have, these juniors, sophomores, that these college coaches need to be reaching out to you about?
We had a really young team this year, so I'm excited for just the development that those guys have been able to go through. I think on defense, we were playing six freshmen or sophomores, and I think on offense, we were playing 6 or 7 as well. So our guys, they got some meaningful experience, which we kind of took our lumps a little bit, but those guys are football players. They're excited about being out there, and for us to finish at 500 this year, obviously it's not where we want to be from a program perspective overall, but we were able to kind of build the foundations in the same thing. If we're able to add a few pieces, I think we'd be right there, competing for one of those top spots as well. Our junior class is actually pretty small. We've got Elijah Darity at the running back position, and Jackson Torres is one of our offensive linemen, but most of our guys that are going to be meaningful guys coming back from us are going to be freshmen and sophomores. So we'll look to solidify some of our upper classes with the PGs and the repeat 11s, build from what we have in that freshman and sophomore class. So
yeah, I think we're pretty fortunate that we're almost done with all of our college placement for our seniors. So we have a couple guys left to place that should be done probably the next month or so. So we feel pretty good about that. And then really for us, I would say this time of the year, it's recruiting in and recruiting out. Recruiting out, we're trying to finalize our seniors, get them placed, but also, really with our juniors and a couple of our sophomores, start getting them some offers too. And then recruiting in where, we're trying to, obviously go to a bowl game next year and try to find the guys that we think are best fit for us. I think for us, it's character is one, and, finding the right guys that kind of fit into our program and are truly going to buy into that team first mentality.
Now that we've listened to all of the experts talk, it's time for the recruiting board pick'em. If you agree with my picks or if you disagree with my picks, let me know in the comments below. Also, take this time, again, I'm going to remind y'all to like this video. Let's get this video to 300 likes. Actually, we're raising it to 500 likes. Also, quick story about Sunday. Bro, I had a couple of boots on the ground because I wanted to get these bowl games up before Danny V did, and we tied this year. The fact that I was able to tie with the GOAT to get these bowl games out was very impressive, and it was an accomplishment, no lie. Starting with the Danny Smith Bowl. By the way, I'm looking at my camera here, and my monitor's up there, double screen. Deerfield versus Belmont Hill. Now that we've talked to the coaches, we know that Deerfield, they can run it with 2 backs, or they can spread you out with all the weapons that they have. While Belmont Hill, they do have skill guys of their own. However, their bread and butter is the power run. They're going to beat you down on the ground, and in November, that is so important. If you can control the tempo on the ground and limit the offensive possessions of the other team, you're going to win. So it's going to be very interesting because Belmont has not seen a spread team or skill guys like this in the ISL. Their only loss they had against Lawrence Academy this year, a team who like to operate out of the spread using their playmakers. Belmont's defense will be tested like they've never been tested this season. However, I do have Belmont winning that game. Coach Facillo ends his tremendous first year with a championship ring. Dexter, Hamden, Hall. Now, it's very interesting here because I do give the skill position matchup to Hamden Hall in this case. After watching some film on them, especially that number 1 kid that Coach Rulli was telling me about, Hamden Hall has some of the best skill across all of New England. But they are facing a red-hot Dexter team who's found their rhythm. They've been playing their best football. I think if Dexter's able to keep it simple, both defensively and offensively, and keep that power run going, they're going to win this game. I'm going to give this game to Dexter. Canterbury, Worcester Academy. I already voiced my opinion on this. I want Worcester Academy to win. Shout out to Coach Bandy in year 3. Really year 4, but in year 3, he has them in a bowl game for the second time ever. Their first bowl game ever if they win it. What a moment out there in Worcester if it happens. Rivers, Pingree. You got to give this one to Hudson Weidman and the Highlanders. That senior class that they have, Jalen Richardson, Hudson Weidman, Chris Colby, Alex Theriault, all those guys have done so much for Pingree in terms of elevating their brand. You want to talk about guys who came in and are leaving the program better than when they came in? That's what they did. Not only that, but Rivers winning at Pingree. Very few teams do that. I know Dexter just did, but that was the first time anyone's beaten Pingree on the farm in Coach Flynn's tenure. I doubt that happens in back-to-back games. I'm not picking against Pingree on the farm again. BBNN Tabor. When I did predictions, I wanted to guess that these two could match up. They end up playing in the Pappas Bowl, which is only fitting for BBNN. In back-to-back years, they play in the John Pappas Bowl. Like all those other coaches just said, I have to tip my hat to Coach Moore in year 1. Tabor is so legit, and he has taken them to another level with guys that he's brought in. Also elevating guys on their roster already, like Bankston. BBNN, I still think that this is their year. I do think it's worth noting here, though. I've only been covering football in New England since 2019. BBNN, while they have been in ISL contention every year, right, they have not won a bowl game in a long time. They lost to Avon in 21. And last year, they lost to St. Paul's. BBNN needs a bowl victory here. It's like Milton Academy. They would always get to the bowl games, but they never won the big dance. It's a tremendous accomplishment to get there, but you gotta win it. Bo McCormick versus Hugo, by the way. Golly, what's the over-under in terms of rushing yards that game? 600? Seriously. I do have BBNN winning that game. I think that they're just a little bit more experience up front, and BBNN is red hot. The only team that they've lost to was Belmont Hill and Williston, of course. We saw Tabor only lose one game, and it was to Lawrence Academy, who BBNN just took care of business with. So I think Bo McCormick and the Knights go out with a championship ring, and Bo wins Gatorade Player of the Year. Very interested to see Coach Moore's game plan in defending Bo. When he has Hugo back there, it'll be a battle of the bell cows in that game. Lawrence Academy versus St. Paul's. Man, Lawrence Academy, this is tough for them, man. I feel for them because they were so red hot, had so much momentum, but unfortunately, I think that they're going to end their season with 3 straight losses. St. Paul's does everything that Lawrence Academy is struggling with right now, and that is run, and power run. The Big Red go on to win back-to-back Nepsac bowl games. Everyone forgets about St. Paul's here. They're a tremendous football team. I'm just going to say this. Some of y'all don't remember this. St. Paul's used to play in the ISL. I'm not saying that they should go back. For them to beat 2 ISL schools in back-to-back years to win bowl games, that's so tremendous. But we talked about it. People see the ISL as like the SEC or maybe even the Big Ten and the Evergreen as the ACC. What does that say? If you have St. Paul's beating Lawrence Academy and BBNN in back-to-back years. Avon versus Cheshire, man, as Coach Banks said, that's a hot ticket. Unfortunately, I never got to see Cheshire play this year. I'm very upset about that. Dante Reno is definitely one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen play live, and so is Puglisi. I think the football god had Suffield beating Cheshire last week so we could see this game again, because everyone wants to see Puglisi Reno one more time. There's going to be offensive talent all over that field. I do think that Cheshire is going to have a hard time getting to the quarterback. And if you're not able to get to Puglisi, you're not going to be able to win that game. I got Avon winning it. Puglisi going out with a W. These are two of the best quarterbacks to ever come out of not only New England, but all of the state of Massachusetts, by the way. And this is how they get to go out playing each other. Their names have been attached to each other for the past couple years, and their last high school games before they both go off to the SEC is going to be against each other. Wow. There should be a good amount of college coaches here, though. I would expect, because anyone that has a bye week and with all the talent that's going to be on the field that day, I'm going to expect a couple college coaches to be rolling out from some Power 5 programs. And then last but not least, the Leon Modesti Bowl. Phillips Exeter versus Choate. And y'all, I am so thankful that the football gods, the Nepsac gods, whoever said, we're going to put this game in Exeter, New Hampshire. Somebody out there said, because recruiting board has to be there. The top game in all of New England to determine the best prep school in New England. And it's in Exeter, New Hampshire. We've come so far, boys. Y'all, no lie, after watching Choate and Avon play, I knew that this was gonna happen, because I've seen Phillips Exeter play, and they deserve to be in this game. I know they had one loss to Cheshire, but I don't care. Phillips Exeter, to me, is going to win this game. I'm picking them. It's going to be tough because Choate has playmakers at every position. They are so deep. They have so much speed, but I'm picking the Big Red as the best team in all New England that day and for the entire year. Because while Choate is deep, so is Phillips Exeter. They are extremely well coached, and they are the most well-balanced team that I have seen across the board. Can hit the deep shot, or they're going to grind you out. I think Eddie Bueller is legit. Kai Honda is one of the best running backs in all of New England. As Coach Beaton was saying, when you see him on tape, he's very good, but I didn't realize how twitchy he was. From what I saw from Choate, they didn't have no Kai Honda on the field that day, that's for sure. They do have the size matchup at corner as well. I think if Choate can do what they do, though, and do long, sustained drives and just pop off the big play when they need to, it'll be a tough game for Phillips Exeter because their offense is going to not have to make any mistakes, and the pressure will be on them. Who can get in their game first? That's going to be the biggest question. This place is going to be rocking, though. I might do a game day vlog for that because it will be in my hometown, so I know all the good spots. I know what we can do. Let me know if you want to see that in the comments below, but I'm rocking with the Big Red. But those are my predictions, guys. Everyone, please take this time and like the video. Be able to recap in exactly 1 week to see if I was right and if I was wrong. Congratulations to all these teams to making the bowl games. I'm Alex Agrell with Recruiting Board, and I am signing off.